motivational teacher that you can see him online, encouraging drummers from all around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Bart Robley.
Thank you. Yeah, so you guys have heard of a TED Talk, right? Ted's not here. We're getting a Bart Talk. So, what I want to talk about today is this. I want to share my story with you guys. For 27 years with the Sam Morrison Band. Rolling Stone magazine did an expose probably 10 or so years ago, and they said that the average band life expectancy is 11 months. I've been in SMB for 27 years. So what I want to do, I want to share with you guys some of the experiences that I've had for all these years with that band, and hopefully help you guys avoid some of the pitfalls that we get into getting into a band. Because I think everybody here wants to be in a band. Doesn't matter what it is, touring band. My buddy Joseph back there, he wants to be in the high school jazz band. He wants to be in the marching band. And you want to keep the gig, right? You get the gig, you want to keep the gig. That's the one thing that I do have down, is keeping the gig at 27 years. So, the way I got the gig with the Sam Morrison Band, the way a lot of bands, or a lot of drummers get a gig, I subbed, right? I got a call from Sam, him and I were friends. He goes, hey man, I got a gig Saturday, tomorrow. My drummer can't make it. I need you to come sub. Okay, well, I don't know any material. Square peg, round hole. I was a square peg, SMB was a round hole. I had been working in LA for about 10 years, and I was doing all different kinds of metal stuff. I was playing the LA club scene, I was playing Whiskey, Roxy, Zari's back in the day, Troubadour. And the bands that I was in were all original bands, so we would rehearse 3 nights a week, then we'd go and play 2 shows, 3 shows. We were going to get our big record deal, we were going to buy Lamborghinis, and we were going to buy mansions. Didn't work out. Anyway, Sam's band was a 90s era working country band, right? They were working all the time. And when I say 90s era, they did music from everywhere, right? So they did music from all eras, right? So they did music from Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, right? Plus in the 90s, they did Garth Brooks, Travis Tritt, Dwight Yoakam, all these bands. Plus, where his heart is at is in Southern rock. So he did a lot of Leonard Skinner, Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker Band, the Outlaws, all these different bands. And as a side note, I'm proud to say every one of the bands I just mentioned, after all these years, we've opened to all of those bands, and it's been remarkable. So anyway, he calls me up, he said, come do this gig. He goes, don't worry about it. I'm going to do more of the rock kind of stuff, and a couple of his originals, and some of the country stuff. And he goes, but the country stuff, no big deal. You can fake your way through it. So I went and did the gig went great. Probably 3 or 4 weeks later, he calls me up. He goes, I got another gig. He goes, this is right up your alley because we're going to rehearse. He goes, what we're doing is we're opening to Edgar Winter. We're playing at the Deschutes County Fairgrounds in Bend, Oregon. We're going to fly you up there. You're going to stay for 1 night, get your own hotel room. We're going to pay you this much, and then it's in an arena. You want to do the gig? And I'm like, hold on, pump the brakes. We're going to play an arena. We're opening for a legend, right? You're flying me up there, and you're going to pay me. I'm in, right? So we go up there, we do the gig. He had good management at the time, so we went up there, we did the gig. After the gig, it was cool, right? Everything was hit. Talked around the campfire. You know what, man? Sam's going to change some numbers. I think you got the gig. Pretty sure you got the gig. He wants to go more Southern rock, right? So, you know what? We think we got the gig. So we get home. I'm happy. Everybody's bro hugging, fist bumping, Kick butt, everyone. Yeah, very nice. I get home, I get a phone call. Man, guys in the band want to stay country, and I just don't think you're the right fit. Love you, great thing, don't think you're the right fit, and so we're going to keep our guy. And I'm like, cool. And as any good, strong band leader does, he wants his band to stay together, right? He wants to keep his band together. He wants to keep it working. So, he keeps the band together. He keeps the band working. He keeps the band going. I don't hear from him for a few months. Calls me up one day. Goes, hey, the drummer quit. The guitar player quit. It's your gig if you want it, but there's a catch. He goes, we're going out on a 3-week tour of Europe. We leave in about 4 days. We got hired to do the country stuff. So you got to get in there and do the country stuff. Well, you know, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that I might get the gig, so I kind of started doing my work, kind of started doing some, woodshedding a little bit. So I'm like, okay, I can make my way through it. And he goes, this is what I'm thinking, I didn't say this. And he goes, and we're playing an active war zone. And we're playing this active war zone. We were playing during the Bosnia skirmish, right? Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, Kosovo. We were 20 miles from Parliament the night they stormed it to get Milosevic out. It was nuts. So anyway, I said, hold on, wait a second. We're going to play an active war zone. And he goes, yeah. And I go, we got to play country. He goes, yeah, you got to play country. And I go, okay. So we get over there. And we get to the first gig. Now again, I have been doing some woodshed, and I'm getting ready for the tour. I knew what was coming, so I did a little bit of work. Now, a minute ago, I said this was a 90s era country band, okay? Now, the thing about a 90s era country band is that everybody wanted to do line dancing, right? So you got the tush push, you got the, you got 10 steps, you got 2 steps, you got the boot, scoot, and boogie, you got all this stuff you got to do. I don't know what songs go with what dances and everything, but Sam's like, don't worry about it. I'll clue you in, I'll call out the songs. And he goes, some songs you're probably not going to know, so I'm just going to tell you the groove to play, and you play that groove. I'm like, okay. Around that time, anybody heard of Vince Gill?
Yes.
Okay. Vince Gill had an album out at the time called The South Side of Dixie. He's now in the Eagles. He's got a beautiful high voice, incredible Telecaster player, plays a B-bender and a D-bender. He does a lot of bluegrass, mandolin, banjo, acoustic guitar. Phenomenal player. He had an album out called The South Side of Dixie. Now the thing is every song with the exception of 2 songs on The South Side of Dixie is a train beat, right? Every one of them. And I think it was Eddie Bears that played drums on it, I'm pretty sure, right? So what he would do is when they would want to do one of these dances, he'd come up and he'd say, okay, we're going to do a 10-step. That's a fast train beat, So I'm like, okay. You go, now we're going to do a 2-step. That's a slow train beat. Okay, no problem. Like I said, every song on that record was a train beat, except for 2. So every once in a while, somebody would call out a song. I want to hear the LMNOP song by Johnny and the Bag of Donuts. And I'm like, I never even heard the freaking title of the song, much less the song. I stole it from Greg Bissonette, by the way.
I bet you
I
did.
did. You know what else I stole? Good composer borrow, great composer steal. So anyway, I stole it from Greg. So yeah, and I'm like, dude, I don't know that song. And he goes, play the Vince Gill drum beat right here. So I'm like, okay. So I go through the song, right? So, now, as time's going on, we do the first gig, we do the second gig, we're on a tour bus, and we're either leaving the gig and going back to the previous base that we stayed at, or we're going to the next gig for the next night, right? We had this bus driver, his name was Road Rage Rudy, spoke Russian, couldn't understand the word he said. And you know, that was our experience with our bus driver. And anyway, I get on the bus and I would check in. I would do these little check-ins with the guys in the band, right? I would say to the bass player and the piano player, I'm like, okay, how's it going? You know, how's everything going? Everything feel okay? Now here's the thing. When you check in, if you're the new guy in a band, if you check in, or a new girl in a band, you check in with the band and you ask them, hey, how's it going, right? There's two things. First of all, be confident about it. Don't be like, oh my God, I don't want to miss a gig if I play it. Okay, don't be that person, right? Be confident. Just, hey, how's it going? Be prepared for what you're going to hear, though, right? Because you may not like what you hear. The one thing that they said, they're like, you know, the train beats, there's just something about them, you know, that's not quite there. And I'm thinking, well, man, I know I'm playing the groove to the song. Right? I know I am. And I had a little tom or rhythm watch, right? So I'm checking my tempos, right? The tempos, I know the tempos are right. At least I'm starting them right, trying to hold on to it. But they're like, yeah, the feel's wrong. So now look, this is way before YouTube. Like I couldn't go, what did Eddie Bears play on? You know, I had to listen. I had to have big ears, and I had to really focus in. What in the heck are they playing, right? Or what did Eddie play? And so I get into my bunk at night, and I had a little portable CD player, right? So I put in the CD, I put on my headphones, and I'm listening. And I'm like, I know that's the right groove. And then it hit me. I'm like, well, wait a second. That's not a real sharp attack. Right? That's not it. I was using hot rods. Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, for sure. Side note, I've gone on to record many songs, I'll get more into that later, where we experiment in the studio, right? So, on Hot Rod on the Road. Or, made it to a lot of albums. You guys should have seen the look on Jeremy's face when I picked up these brushes. He was like, whoa, Bart knows what brushes are. That they're going to be loud. So anyway, at that point, what it was a texture thing, right? It wasn't the drum thing so much as it was a texture thing. So I realized right away that, okay, I have to be able to do that. We did a show a number of years ago on deck when we very first started this thing, and it was called What's in Your Bag. Now, I pick on Jeremy, and I pick on him because he's so good at this, man. He had this bag, and it's just full of like all kinds of sticks and mallets and brushes and all kinds of crazy stuff, and I got brooms too. And anyway, he's showing all this stuff that he had. We went up and did deck day up in the Bay Area, the second one, up at Bandworks, Jeremy's place. And we got to sit in with his band the night before we got into town early. We got to sit in with his band. And we you know, they're kind of this cool, poppy, jazzy thing. And he walks up and goes, here, Bart, use these sticks, you know. And they felt great. He really knows his stuff in his bag. Now, I learned this years before I met Jeremy, but texture is a lot, right? Texture is a lot of what we do. It just is. This sound, and this sound, and this sound, or this sound, are three completely different things. I don't care if you are the heaviest of heavy metal drummers, and you want to play Slipknot, and Rammstein, and Iron Maiden, and Dio, and all that stuff. I'm in. I cut my teeth on that stuff. I love that stuff. But have some hot rods. Have some sticks in your bag. And if you're just thinking to yourself, you know what, I'll just use my sticks and I'll play quieter. Not going to cut it. It's that sound, right? It's that texture. And if you're thinking, well, I'm a metal guy and I'm gonna do what I want. Well, see in the unemployment line, right? You've gotta have these things in your bag, right? Even if you don't use them all the time, have them in there. You don't know what's gonna happen, right? The other thing I want to say about this whole thing, the way I say I got started in the band, right? I got started and hired as a sub, right? I came in, I did the gig, and I wasn't quite sure how it was going to go. Had I not done that gig, I wouldn't have gotten the Edgar Winter gig. Had I not done good at the Edgar Winter gig, I wouldn't have got the European gig tour, right? And then 27 years later, here I am talking about it. So I think the texture thing is a big thing. If you want to geek out and you want to go deeper, okay, a snare drum. I like metal snare drums. It's a WFL3 5 1/4 aluminum drum, and this thing will part your hair. It is so loud, but it's a killer sounding drum. And I love metal drums. I'm a Gretsch guy, I'm a WFL guy too, but I love aluminum drums. I love brass drums. I love chrome over steel, right? That's kind of the sound that I dig. But start a collection, right? And I know we don't all have endless bank accounts and endorsements where we can call up our companies and say, send me this, you know? But start a collection. Get whatever you like, right? But if you like metal drums, get a couple wood shell drums, right? Get some shallow ones, get some deep ones. The snare drum can change the entire drum kit. It can change, you're in a recording session, you take down this metal drum and you put up an old Radio King, it's going to sound like a different kit. You take down the Radio King, you put up a Superphonic, it's going to sound like a different kit. If you don't know what a Superphonic and a Radio King are, you need to know these things. Dive in, know what this stuff is. Really geek out, right? And again, you don't have to have a big collection, just maybe 3, 4, 5 drums, you know, that you collect over a number of years. Also cymbals, collect different cymbals, different sounds and textures. It will serve you well. Okay, so we're cooking along. We're doing great. Band's going. And I had been absolutely cramming trying to learn material, right? I'm listening to songs. I'm making notes. I'm writing on my snare drum, writing on the floor tom, trying to learn all these tunes and remember them all, right? And there was a ton of them. And the ones that I kind of knew that I could play, of course I visited them and made sure, got the tempos and everything, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to those ones, right? Hey Chip, let me try out the cymbal for you. Can you hear?
Sorry, man.
Dude, I'm giving you a hard time. So anyway, I didn't spend a lot of time on the stuff that I knew how to play, okay? Now, I made a mistake because before I got the gig, I watched Sam's old drummer play this one particular song. Anybody familiar with the Allman Brothers? You know a song called Whipping Post? Yeah, you need a calculator to get through that one. You know, you're in 11/8, and then you go into 6/8, and then you go into 12/8, and you can have a musical theory class on the difference between 6 and 12, but that's a different clinic. So I watched his old drummer play this song, and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, and I were at a concert before I went out on tour. We were at a concert up in Hollywood. I'm pretty sure it was Mr. Big. I don't remember who the opening act was. But the opening act did a version of Whipping Post. And I had watched Sam's old drummer do Whipping Post. And I love that tune. I'd played it, but just kind of fiddled around. I never dove in and learned it, right? So the intro to the song, what Sam's old drummer played, and what the guy from the metal band, who I wish I could remember the name of the band, played, the part that was in 11, he played... So, and it worked, right? But then you get into the verses, right? There we are in 6. Now, you put those two things together, right? most important things with drums are groove, time, and feel. Can't lose any of them. Groove, time, and feel. Get that tattooed somewhere on your body. Tell all my students, don't forget that groove, time, and feel. And I wasn't happy with the feel of that. I was like, man, when I go from the 11 to the 6, it works, but it's just kind of like I hit a speed bump, every time. Now the guys in the band, again, I watched their old drummer. I'm not blaming anybody. I just was cramming trying to learn this material. So monkey see, monkey do. He did that, I'm doing that. Nobody said anything, right? Nobody ever said anything. Now, here's another hint for you. If you're in a band and nobody ever says anything to you, one of two things are happening. You are either crushing it or you're getting ready to get your ass fired. One or the other. Sorry if I said ass and offended anybody, right? It's one of the two, right? They're not going to tell you. So I'm playing and nobody's saying anything. So again, I get in my bunk and I'm listening, and we're driving to the next gig, and I'm like, man, I don't think that's right. It's kind of, it kind of swings, got a swagger to it. And the Allman Brothers are hard to figure out because there's two drummers and a percussionist. So what the heck are they doing? So, and the version that we were learning was a live version, right? And so both drummers are playing. It's not like in the studio where one drummer would record the part and you're listening. And you can really tell when you're listening because you hear the two backbeats on whatever song they're playing. They don't always line up. You hear it flan. So anyway, what I heard was there's the 11/8 part, and I'm like, I think that's it. So. Hiccup was gone. Second I did it, the bass player was like, hey, oh yeah. Piano player was like, hey, that was pretty cool. So after the gig, much like when I did the train beat, right, and I changed the texture, like, dude, what did you do? My God, just changed the groove. Like, that's it. I never noticed that before. It was so smooth. And they were incredibly thankful that I did that. Now here's the clue for you guys. Here's the thing I want you guys to always remember. The train beat thing, I got feedback from somebody, I got, hey, it's not going so good. You need to go work on it. And we worked on it. The 11/8 into 6/8 thing, I wasn't happy. Can you dive in and listen to yourself and go, man, I've always played it this way, and the other guy played it this way, but I can do it better. And it's not that you want to do it better than the other guy. You want to do it right. Groove, time, and feel. You want to give it the right feel. You want to give it the right texture. You don't want that little hiccup in the road when you go from section to section, right? So can you self-analyze? Sometimes that's just listening to yourself play. Sometimes that's listening to a board tape, a recording from the show, or watching yourself on video. Analyze yourself, and don't be afraid to go, you know what? I got to work on that. You may have to play it 1,000 times, right? But that 1,000th time or the 1,001st time, you're like, that's it. And it makes the band come to life, right? That's what the band wants. That's what the band leader wants. And that leads to longevity. So we're working. We're out there playing. We're going all over the place. And we were working with a band in Las Vegas by the name of Yellow Brick Road. Now, Yellow Brick Road was hands down the best band I've ever seen in my life. These guys were phenomenal. We're opening up to them every night, and they did songs that I forgot about, and they're nailing. What's that? Focus by Hocus Pocus. With the yodeling. Yeah, dude. And it's like, how the hell do you do that? They were so incredibly good, right? Adam, are you going to yodel for us?
No, I just said it's Hocus Pocus by Focus.
Is it Hocus Pocus by Focus? That's why I asked. Or is it Focus by Hocus Pocus? What is it? Which is it?
Hocus Pocus is the song and the band is Focus.
Hold on, I'm trying to focus here. So anyway, so they did that song, and you're like, I've never heard a band play that song before, right? Never. And they nailed it. Well, then they would come out and they'd go, okay, tonight we are going to do a tribute to the Beatles. Okay, and they do everything from Love Me Do to Eleanor Rigby and just nail it. And you're like, God, that's so good. And then the next night, we're going to do a tribute to Rush. Wow. And they would nail it. And you're like, dude, you went from the Beatles to Rush. And there's a jump, you know? How in the heck did you do that? And again, they would nail it. They were so good. James Sloan was the drummer for the band. He and I became fast friends. So anyway, Sam comes up and he goes, man, these guys are doing these tribute nights. There's some tribute things going on. What if we were to do a tribute show? Because we get a lot of requests for Bob Seger. Now, we were doing originals, we were doing a lot of Southern rock, and in what we called the Southern rock set, we have Bob Seger in there. He's not really Southern rock, but Sam just sounds like him, and it was always a crowd pleaser, right? So we're like, yeah, okay, why not? Let's try it, right? Well, and he goes, all we got to do is learn like 6, 8 more tunes and see if it sticks to the wall. Okay, so we did that. Well, out of the park it went, over the fence. Within a year, we were signed to a record label called Titan Tribute Media to re-record the entire show. And yes, there's big legalities and again, another whole clinic. But we got signed to a 3-album deal. We did 5 albums of Bob Seger's music that we re-recorded. We don't sell it as us, we sell it as a tribute. But and we got signed for 3 reasons. Physical product to sell at the shows, right? For sync licensing for music that goes into movies and television and all that sort of stuff. And then, at the time, they put it up on iTunes. Now, right away, and we came in, he signed 3 bands. Us, a band called Led Zeppelin, a band called Which One's Pink. And right away we went up on iTunes, but we went up at the end of where people were buying music before streaming really kind of started. But like right now we sold 750,000 copies, like just of re-records, right? A lot of stuff's made it to movies and television, and with the streaming stuff, to date, we're at 65 million streams. Yeah. Now, that is not just the Bob Seger stuff. Because we do all these shows, our music is dovetailed in there. We've had our music into different television shows and movies and whatnot. And working with Michael Blum was incredible. I learned so much from him. What I learned right away was he did not want our versions of Bob Seger songs. He wanted exact re-records. There's one song that we do. It's pretty much our opening song every night. Sometimes we open with another song that's somewhere else in the set. There's a song called Hollywood Nights. Okay, and the groove to Hollywood is. So that's the groove. Now, so what it is? 1, 2, 3, 2 and 4. 1. In the middle of the head, I'm playing a big backbeat, you know, in the middle, or on the drum with a rim shot. My left hand comes over, tip of the stick, middle of the drum. 1, 2, 3, 1. Ghost note, but it's a little bit quieter, gives it a gallop. All 8 notes with the exception of 2 and 4 on the kick. 3, 4. On the second album. First album I stand behind, love the record. Second album, I knew I had to dig deeper. Again, we did 5 albums. We were going to do 2 more originally, and it was about, okay, we got to do exact re-records, right? I can't remember that much music note perfect, and he wanted it note perfect, right to the click. It could not move. Well, a couple things. A lot of the big hits for Bob Seger were on live records. So the tempos did this, right? And Hollywood Nights, I'm trying to learn that drum part. And I'm like, what is it? and I'm listening. Now this comes back to what I was saying a minute ago about listening to yourself and going, it's not right. And I'd record and I'd listen and it's not right. And I'd video and I'd listen and it's not right. And it just, I couldn't figure it out. So YouTube's still not going. So I do a Google search. What happened on the drums on Hollywood Nights, Bob Seger, Stranger Town, and it comes up with this thing. David Teagarden, the original drummer, went into a session and he recorded the drum part. Goes home, comes back the next day, and he goes, hey, I got an idea for that song Hollywood Nights. I want to re-record the drum part. So they said, yeah, they being Bob Seger and Punch Andrews, the producer. And so he went in and recorded a second drum part, right? Well, they kept the first drum part, and they liked both of them. So they took the two and they dovetailed them together. So when you listen to the original recording of Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, Hollywood Nights, it's two drum parts. How do you figure that out, right? And it comes back to the big ears. It comes back to really listening. It comes into diving in. A lot of trial and error, right? I've seen a lot of guys on YouTube, and I've seen guys live play it, and they do this one-handed thing, and immediately, bless you, immediately it's like way too much nervous energy. It's this thing, and it doesn't line up, and it's not right. And when I say one-handed, it's like they're playing right hand on the hi-hat and left hand like you would normally play, and it's just not right. And I'm not knocking anybody, but that, you know, you see it and you hear it. And again, it's nervous energy. Now, as a side note, my buddy Rick Stojak, who just played, was that guy incredible or what? The Bo Diddley thing? You gotta follow that. Come on. So, Rick, you've had enough of me already, I can tell.
Sorry.
Hey,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for making it out, Steve.
Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Get up,
That's okay.
Steve!
That's okay.
Good, Steve. Can I say, man, I'm glad you can make
So,
it.
Can't wait till.
we're, you know, where was that? So I do the yeah. So I hear people play this part, right? And it's one hand, it's wrong. It's total nervous energy. You can just, when they're trying to play it with one hand, it's this thing, right? Now here's the deal. Me and my buddy Rick Stojak, we're big coffee drinkers. We're big coffee
That's how we
drinkers.
do this.
Yeah, man. So we like to drink coffee. So we walk around Basic, and we have a cup of coffee with us, right? And we're looking at all the booths, and we're looking around. And I take my last cup of coffee, or swig of coffee, and then I see Rick take his last swig of coffee. And I go, hey Rick, you want to get some more coffee? And he goes, yeah man, let's go get some more coffee. And so he and I go, and we get our cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So if one of us ever walk up to you and go, you know, that groove you're playing's got a little bit of nervous energy, listen, because by the end of that, or by the end of Basic, we're like, no, it's a great show, you know, and so we know a thing or two about nervous energy. So anyway, yeah, that was kind of the thing where I got the part, I went in and recorded it. Well, years later, right, YouTube comes around, and Don Brewer went out on tour with Bob Seger in 2011 or 12 on the Face the Promise tour. And Don Brewer was the drummer for Grand Funk Railroad. And after Grand Funk broke up, he and Craig Frost, the piano player, went into Bob Seger's band, toured with him for a year. And so anyway, now Bob Seger's out on tour, and there's a camera now that ends up on YouTube filming, you know, Don Brewer playing that part, and now there's footage of Kenny Aronoff playing that part, and that's what they play. And the cameras are behind the kit, so I know I got the kick drum part right and everything. Wow, man, okay, cool, I got it. I was really proud of that. So again, it's about having those big ears, about digging in. It's also about knowing how to read and transcribe. Right? Know how to transcribe music. Pick an easy song, right? Pick Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. It's the same groove all the way through, but there's a couple of, right? Can I hit those? Can I get those? Can I write those in? Be able to do it, right? After we did all those recordings, I've recorded numerous records with Michael Blum, the producer, and a lot of one-offs, a lot of stuff for sync licensing, And every recording from the second record on, including all the other extracurricular stuff I've done with him, all I went in with was my transcription. And this is for a re-record. Original stuff, of course, I'm working with people, but for all the re-records, it's my transcription, myself, the producer, and the metronome. Nobody else is in the studio. I'm cutting the click and reading my transcription. I got to re-record a whole bunch of the Meatloaf catalog. I got to re-record a whole bunch of stuff, all the CCR catalog, and then a couple other, albums where I'd go in with artists and like play on their records, and it worked out really good. So a couple of things, be able to do those things, and then like if somebody gives you a suggestion, like if Sam would have said, hey, let's try this tribute thing, see if it works, and somebody would have said, no, I don't want to do that, none of this would have happened. I always call those people a yeah butter. Don't be a yeah butter. Hey, you want to do this? Yeah, but it'll be too much work. Don't be a yeah butter. Try stuff. If it doesn't work, well, 5 more tunes, right? Big deal. All right, here's the last one. So, then I'm going to play. So, we have a couple of shuffles in the show, right? And I'm not talking cool shuffles. Crazy during the chorus. Right? That's the shuffle. Now here's the thing. At this point, there's going to be songs that you don't want to play. If you get in a band, there's going to be some songs where you're just like, you look down at the set list and you're like, Not about you. It's about the audience now. It's about the song, right? The most important thing on any stage, anywhere, with any band is not the singer. They'll tell you they're the most important thing. It's not the singer, it's a song, right? You have to sell the song, because even if you don't like the song, there might be 400 people out in the crowd that love that song. That's the song they got married to, or that's the song that they, whatever. That's their jam. They love that tune. So you have to do the song and you have to do your job. So one night we're out on tour and we're playing Shame on the Moon. And that's the groove to the song, Shame on the Moon. And it's, fairly far down in the set. It's about a week long. Okay, it just goes on forever. And I'm up there playing. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
My voice? I don't like to eat before I play. I don't want to sit up there going all the way through the show. So I'm going to eat after the gig. Time to set list. Oh! 3 more songs. I'm going to go get a cheeseburger. Nope. I'm going to keep it light today. I'm going to get a salad. Let me go get a cheeseburger and a salad. What happened? What did I do? What I did?
Lost the swing.
Lost the swing, right? So watch this. What makes it swing is the hi-hat pattern, right? This never changes. Right? Now again, that's like with a simple shuffle like that. I'm not talking about like the halftime thing I played there. I'm talking about just something like that. It's not the most exciting thing to play, but again, that's your job, right? And even if you're not crazy about the tune, that is your job. You hire somebody to come over and paint your house, and you're gonna pay them $18,000 to paint your giant house. And you go, okay, I'm going to write you the check for $18,000. I'd like you to paint it green, but they hate the color green. They're going to take the check and they're going to paint the house green, right? If you don't like to play a boring shuffle, but you're hired to do that, be able to do it and be able to sell it. It's incredibly important. Now, here's the last thing that I'll say about the playing part. I'll wrap it up. So, the shuffle, I counted it. Every shuffle I play, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The piano player at the time comes up to me and he goes, man, he goes, come here, I want to talk to you. He pulls me aside and he says, hey man, shame on the moon, you weren't shuffling it. And I'm like, don't you know who I think I am? Of course I was shuffling. Now what I should have done is I should have you know what, I know I started it as a shuffle, because that's how I count in every shuffle. Every shuffle I play, that's how I count it in. So I know I started it as a shuffle, and I don't know if I was thinking about cheeseburgers. I could have been thinking about whatever. But somewhere along the line, my head wasn't in the game. So can you keep your head in the game on a song you don't like? You got to be able to do that. Keep your head in the game. If you've played sports, you've heard that a million times. Keep your head in the game. If somebody comes to you out of the goodness of their heart and they do it right and they pull you aside, they're like, hey, come here. It wasn't so hip, you know? You didn't play it right. Don't take offense to that, because they're not going to tell you if it's not true, right? They're gonna say, hey, that part wasn't quite cool, and you need to go, okay, and put the ego aside, right? So there's a lot of those things that happen. Look, nobody's ever been fired from a band because they're a great hang, right? This part is expected that you can do this. It's almost taken for granted that you can play your instrument, right? Like, yeah, I can play the drums, no problem. But can you hang with the people? Can you be malleable in all of those areas? Can you change your playing and listen to your playing and listen objectively and listen to what other people's critiques are and not be offended, right? And that goes for a touring band or the high school, jazz band. When the jazz instructor goes, come here, man, you got to go see Jeremy Steinkorn, work on some of that swing stuff, man. You're not happening, right? Don't take offense to that stuff. Sharpen yourself and get better. Man sharpens man like steel sharpens steel. That's what we're doing here today. Okay, that's what we're doing here today. We're getting better. I'm getting better by giving this clinic to you guys. That's what this whole thing is about. Being in a band, being in a touring band, to anybody that wants to be in a touring band and you want to go out on the road, right? And I've already been coast to coast this year. I'm so thankful it's April and we've already been coast to coast. The gig is not that big of a deal. You go see any concert, right? And you look up there on the stage at the Staples Center or over at the bar and grill down on the corner, and you see that gear up there, and then the band gets up there and plays. You're witnessing the end result of a lot of hard work. And I'm not talking about the years it took to get there. I'm talking about that day, getting all that junk up on that stage and getting it plugged in and making sure it works right, And then that 90 minutes or those 2 hours that you see the band, that's the sprinkles on top of the icing of the cake, right? The stuff that rips bands apart is the ride to the next gig. I spend way more time in a vehicle, in a bus, in a car, in an airplane, in an airport, in an Airbnb with the guys in the band, sharing a common area, but we have all our own space, than I ever do on stage. True story, we're playing in Phoenix one night, got done with the gig, packed everything in the trailer, clear down to Donna, Texas. Donna, Texas is down past Corpus Christi. It's a 23-hour drive. And I'm not talking like a 23-hour drive. We're going to stop and have lunch and dinner, and we're going to go see the world's largest ball of twine and stuff. And we're going to see Chris Brady. We're going to say hi to Chris.
I was saved by that.
It's not that, man. Your dinner and your lunch and your breakfast is beef jerky and a bag of chips that you got at the Love's gas station on the way to the next Love's gas station to get to the gig. Now what we did, literally, that's a true story. Drove all the way down to Donna, Texas. We did 8 or 9 shows, and then our agent, all the way back to Phoenix, another 23 hours, we had another gig in Phoenix before we could come home, right? Drive from here to San Diego with one of your friends. You want to kill each other by the time you get out of the car, more than likely, right? So you drive 23 hours with 6 dudes, man, that'll crush your soul. But you got to learn to work with people. You learn to not let stuff bug you. That's what being in a band is about. And I think that is applicable to a touring band, to the band down in the corner, to the hobbyist band, to the high school marching band, or to the jazz band. I just do, right? You have to learn to work nice with the other kids in the pool, right? You just do. I have a new book out last night. It was about a year old. I got a book over here called Drum Up Your Business. Drum Up Your Business is just on that. It's on the business of the music business. Drum is an acronym: determination, relationships, understanding, and mentorship. If you want to buy it today, it's $25. If you want to buy it with my other literary book, The Rhythmic Journey, I'm selling both of them for $40. So there's a plug for my books if you want to do that today. If you want to buy it on Hudson Music, there's a QR code over there, and you can download it on a device. And it's $9, and that's less than a venti, drippy caramel whipped cream thing that you buy at Starbucks. So you can do that over there. I thank you guys for listening to me, and I hope I answered some questions, and I hope that I kind of made you guys realize what it means to play in a working band and what it means to be in a working environment. Everything that the guys did today, from Chip's drum solo that we had to follow all day, to Jeremy's jazz discussion and Rick's Bo Diddley thing, man, there's so much information there. Well, you take all that information that they talked about and you practice your butt off, and then you get in a band. Well, you want to keep that gig. You want to go and do that gig for as long as you can, right? So if everybody wants to get in a band, I hope it happens for you. Thank you guys for coming out. We're going to do a little Q&A with the four of us on all kinds of whatever you guys want to ask. So do you guys have any questions for the four of us?
Bart Robley, everybody. Bart Robley.